And blistering temperatures hit Europe and the United States, prompting widespread health and fire alerts. We'll hear about the links between extreme heat and climate change. A record number of heat alerts are in place across France amid extreme temperatures across southern and eastern Europe. 16 French regions are on red alert for high temperatures continuing on Tuesday. France's climate minister called the situation unprecedented. Spain, Portugal, Italy, Germany and UK are also under heat advisories. And here in the US, extreme weather is threatening to overshadow the FIFA Club World Cup, causing problems for players and fans. Well, I've been speaking about all of this with Michael Mann, Distinguished Professor at the Department of Earth and Environmental Science at the University of Pennsylvania. Now, we've seen record high temperatures in several European countries and indeed even here in the US. Last week we had Alaska with its first ever heat advisory. Can we attribute this stretch of heat waves to climate change?
To be blunt, yes. We wouldn't be seeing heat waves of this intensity this early in the summer. It's just barely into summer at this point, if it were not for the fact that we are warming up the planet with carbon pollution from the burning of fossil fuels, elevating global temperatures and making these sorts of heat waves more frequent and more intense.
And on that note, should we expect then that these sorts of temperatures will become the norm? There was that report from the European Copernicus program last week showing the world is getting hotter faster.
Yeah, I mean, the world is actually getting hotter at sort of a steady pace, but that's bad enough. It will continue to get warmer as we continue to add carbon pollution to the atmosphere. Until we bring those emissions to zero, the planet will continue to get warmer. And obviously, you know, it's not rocket science. You make the planet hotter, you're going to have more frequent and intense heat waves. But there's another ingredient here, which is that the pattern of warming, in particular, the fact that the polar regions are warming up so much faster, is actually changing the jet stream. And it's changing the jet stream in a way that gives you those very wiggly jet stream patterns that you see on a weather map with big high pressure and low pressure systems that remain in place for days on end. That's when you get these very persistent summer weather extremes, the heat domes, for example, that we've seen in North America and Europe. And that fact is something that isn't entirely captured by our climate models. Those models are potentially underestimating the extent to which we are changing the climate in a way that favors these very persistent summer weather extremes, these damaging and dangerous and even deadly weather extremes.
And do those heat domes now stay around for longer than they would have in the past?
Yeah, so one of the things we're seeing is that you're more likely to get these sort of stagnant systems. A heat dome is a high pressure center. It's associated with sort of the up wiggle in the jet stream. A low pressure center typically gives you rainfall, flooding with a very deep low pressure center. That's sort of the down part of the wiggle. And those wiggles are tending to stay in place for longer periods of time. So that high pressure, the heat, the drought, the wildfires stay over the same location for days upon days, or those low pressure systems with their rainfall stay stuck in the same location, and you get flooding rains day after day, giving you far worse flooding. And so that is something that we are seeing more of, and we do think it's linked, again, to human-caused warming.
And when you talk about the jet stream changing there, and we've seen other issues in Europe, lower levels on waterways, invasive species spotted in bodies of water where they wouldn't have been before, is that kind of environmental change reversible with the measures that are in place and underway?
Yeah, well, there's a little bit of good news there, which is that this particular phenomenon I'm talking about, how the pattern of warming of the surface creates sort of conditions where the jet stream is likely to get locked in place like that. We get those stagnant weather extremes. That's tied to the warming of the surface of the planet. So if we stop carbon emissions, if we stop warming up the surface of the planet, that will stabilize. That won't continue to get worse. Now, some of the impacts will stay with us for decades, potentially. The melting of the ice, the rise in sea level. We are committed to potentially many additional decades of continued climate change when it comes to some of those slower components of the climate system. But this particular pattern, this atmospheric pattern, it will not get any worse. if we stop warming the surface of the planet. And that gives us agency. That tells us if we can bring those carbon emissions to zero and we stop warming up the surface of the planet, we will stop the exacerbation of these conditions that give us these very persistent summer weather extremes.
Well, the intense heat wave across Europe coincides with the start of the Wimbledon Championships in London. Monday marked the tennis tournament's hottest opening day ever, with temperatures reaching 32 degrees Celsius, nearly 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Day one saw men's world number one, Carlos Alcaraz, and women's number one, Aryna Sabalenka, win their first round matches. 6 British players also made it through to the second round.
Hello there. Monday, we saw contrasting weather conditions, but the heat and humidity dominated the weather story. In fact, it was the hottest opening day on record at Wimbledon, with a high of 32.9 Celsius. Eastern England seeing some very hot and humid weather.
2 people have died in Italy as temperatures continue to soar amid an intense heat wave across Europe. Parts of Spain and Portugal have recorded their highest ever June temperatures. While in France, the Eiffel Tower in Paris has been partially closed to visitors because of a red heat alert. Here's our Paris correspondent, Hugh Schofield.
Another summer, another heat wave. Since the weekend, France feels like the inside of an oven. Today, Paris and its surrounding region went from orange to red alert, the highest level, with temperatures expected to touch 40 degrees Celsius during the afternoon. Schools are closed and there are restrictions on car use. The top level of the Eiffel Tower is shut to visitors because of the heat. As the years go by, people here are beginning to believe that this is what summer now means. Back in the 70s, heat waves came to France once every 4 years on average. In the 2020s, heat waves can be expected twice every summer. In the rest of the country, even coastal Brittany is suffering. Here, the heat encourages the growth of toxic algae, and the mayor of one small town has been forced to close her beach to the public. And across the whole of southern Europe, the sun keeps pounding down. In Italy, 2 dead attributed to the heat wave. In Turkey, wildfires in the western province of Izmir. In central Portugal, a spectacular roll cloud moving in from the sea. Everywhere, excessive weather, but maybe no longer exceptional. Hugh Schofield, BBC News, Paris.
Well, let's get some more on this with our correspondent, Anna Hulligan, who's in the Netherlands for us. Anna, I mean, it's looking lovely behind you, but I mean, how are people coping with the heat?
Well, I've done the same as many people across Europe and brought my work to one of the coolest places I could find. I'm speaking to you, I'm standing in the North Sea right now, and if I just spin the camera around and give you a view down this beautiful coast, people have brought their parasols and pets to escape the sweltering heat of the city. A code yellow weather warning is in place for the entire country, a code orange in 3 provinces. A national heat plan is also in place. People are being advised to stay hydrated, wear sun cream. Events have been cancelled, postponed, after school activities also cancelled. This is part of a broader pattern here in the Netherlands with increasing summer temperatures, record highs in recent years. Fortunately, though, in this small low-lying nation, you're never too far away from a canal or indeed a beach.
Extreme heat shuts the top of the Eiffel Tower as Europe swelters.
And some bus drivers describe working in 40 degrees as the heat wave continues. Plus, after the driest spring in over a century, farmers warn of crops failing.
Last month was the hottest June ever recorded in England, the second warmest for the UK as a whole since Met Office data began in 1884. Today, temperatures topped 34.7 degrees Celsius in London. It has been even hotter on the continent. Portugal and Spain hit 46 degrees Celsius at the weekend. In Western Turkey, 50,000 people have had to flee wildfires. In France, a red alert for extreme heat is enforced today, so hot that the top of the Eiffel Tower had to be closed. Well, a lot of Europe is set to swelter for a bit longer, and Andrew Harding is in Paris for us tonight. Andrew.
Yes, good evening, Sophie. It was 38 degrees here. It's cooled down to a mere 36 in the last hour or so. As you say, across Europe, this has been a day in parts of record-breaking heat. There have been wildfires in Turkey, and there have been a number of heat-related deaths reported too. At dawn today, France was already roasting. Soon, Paris's Eiffel Tower was feeling the menacing heat, the upper floors abruptly closing to tourists. At street level, a constant search for water, to drink or just to stand under. The temperature here now in the high 30s Celsius, warnings of risk to life. In the south of France, no stranger to hot summers, it is unusually early in July for the heat waves to be starting. The sea already too hot to be refreshing.
It's way too warm for this season, and that isn't good for the planet, or for our future and the future of our children.
And of course, the heat dome looming over Europe is not just scorching France. Rome too is baking. Several deaths now confirmed in Italy. And in Spain, a 2-year-old child left in a parked car is reported to have died. Both Spain and Portugal now say this is the hottest day in July that they've ever recorded.
Everybody is at risk. If you go out without water in the middle of the day to do jogging, have a bike ride, you will probably have severe health problems or even die.
Meanwhile, this ominous cloud appeared along the coast of Portugal, hot and cooler air mixing offshore. And almost inevitably, wildfires have begun. These are in Turkey. Villages evacuated, at least 50,000 people affected so far. And across Europe, the sense that this may be the new normal for summer. Andrew Harding, BBC News, Paris.
Good evening and welcome to the programme on another scorching day here in the capital. While some are able to enjoy such high temperatures, others say they are working in sweltering conditions. Some London bus drivers describe it as intolerable, with temperatures up to 40 degrees. Transport for London says they have a hot weather plan in place to protect staff who should raise any concerns. Anna O'Neill has been talking with drivers, many of whom don't want to be identified.
Oh, so how hot do you think it is?
It's 30.
It's 37.8 in your cab.
I know.
37. Are you hot? Are you
Very
feeling
hot.
uncomfortable?
See, look at me.
It's the hottest day of the year, and for many London bus drivers, the inside temperature is even hotter than the outside.
On a hot day, if the temp outside is 35 degrees, we're looking at temperatures above 40 in the cab.
One London bus driver, speaking to us on condition of anonymity, has told BBC London that working in the heat is not just difficult, it can be intolerable.
It's like a sauna. We're sweating so much that sweat is literally going into our eyes. We can no longer concentrate on the road. Drivers are bringing in spare uniform to change into because they've sweated that much. It's an unhygienic working condition where seats are soaked in sweat, and as drivers, we're expected to sit in that. Yesterday, I took over my bus at 4 p.m. The fabric seats were absolutely covered in sweat. I had to put newspapers down on the seat in order to sit on it.
And he's not alone. You may have seen this video on social media from a previous heatwave of an overheated bus driver being cooled down by a member of the public.
What temperature is your office? My office is 35 degrees.
TfL tell us that bus operators have a hot weather protocol to keep staff and customers safe in weather like this, including air conditioning in all drivers' cabs. But we've been hearing that isn't always the case in practice, even if it is the case in theory. 36.3 in your cab with the window open.
Yeah.
Have you got air conditioning in there?
I have, but it's no good.
It's not working?
It's working, but as you can see, it's hot.
Does your aircon work?
It works, but doesn't give the blow-up thing. It gives the sound, doesn't work out. See?
So you can hear it, but you can't feel it?
Yeah.
TfL told us that across the network, measures to protect staff are being taken and include, but are not limited to, a relaxed uniform policy and provision of water and cooling towels.
Cabs are currently too hot. We are passing out literally at the wheel, and it's not good enough.
The heatwave may be over by tomorrow, but this problem may be back. Anna O'Neill, BBC London.
So as we've been feeling, it's been a warm start to the summer, but it also comes after the driest spring in over a century. And farmers are warning many crops have been destroyed. It means they'll struggle to make a profit or have been forced to make major changes. Our environment correspondent Tom Edwards reports from Hertfordshire.
The green belt is turning yellow. This crop of wheat is meant to be green and growing, but the lack of rain has killed it off.
So this is a crop of wheat, and the hot weather we've been having recently has caused it to die off. We farm some really shallow soils on a lot of gravel here, and what happens in a dry summer is there isn't enough moisture left in the soil to help keep the wheat.
Will Dickinson's family farm this area in Hertfordshire. The dry weather means this crop will make a loss.
We're anticipating on this farm particularly a yield drop of between 10 and 25%.
And that makes it unprofitable?
The price of wheat currently at international commodity levels simply isn't enough money to cover the cost of production.
Farmers are having to be more resilient to the changing climate. Here they're using more resilient crops and organic fertiliser so the ground can hold more moisture. Experts say that due to a changing climate, we are going to get much more of these dry spells. And all of that highlights the importance of climate resilience. And experts also say we will have to start planning for more heat waves and preserve more water.
Not all farmers are able to do it, so it's more of a sort of a concerted action that is needed. Is really trying to maintain the water, so increase the ability to preserve water, rainfall water. So water reserves, the water management. So it's in that case is farmers can do something, but water companies should do probably more.
There's not much sign of rain ahead, and these weather patterns and their consequences we will need to get used to. Tom Edwards, BBC London.